Hey everybody, what's going on? Gremlin Gear here today, and instead of a tabletop review, we are going to be doing a truck bed review. And as I got out here to film, realized that my nice DJI microphones are not compatible with my phone. But hopefully the acoustics of my truck bed will let me be very easy to hear still. And so today, we are going to be going over the Mystery Ranch Terraframe backpack, which I carry around quite frequently. Now this video is not going to be a review of me shilling Mystery Ranch or even this backpack from Mystery Ranch. This is simply going to be me showcasing a piece of gear that I have a decent amount of time with, showing what it's capable of, what it's able to fit, and some niche purposes or some niche areas that it may serve you in. That is really what I try to tailor all of my content towards, is just you, if you're shopping or looking for a product, you can come here, see it on my page, see what I've used it for, what it can actually fit, and talk about some things that the product does well. So like I said, this isn't going to be me going over the stitching of the backpack and how awesome the buckles are and why you should buy a bunch of stuff from Mystery Ranch. This is just going to be me talking about my anecdotal experience, evidence with this backpack. It's just experience-based stuff that I've learned, and hopefully you can take something away from this. So if you're new to the channel, welcome, and if you're back, hey, glad to have you. But please go ahead and like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you learned something from this video. And I want you to think about something. I only have experience with this backpack and maybe a few others, and if you have a favorite military style or just backpacking style backpack that's able to carry a lot of stuff, go ahead and comment what your favorite is and why you like it so much. Because like I said, I have limited experience, and this backpack, quite frankly, which I'm going to get into, could probably be bigger and could probably hold a lot more stuff. I know a lot of people, some of my friends, who have been on backpacking excursions, and they carry anywhere from 80 to 100 liter backpacks, or 100 liter plus. So let's go ahead and get into the video. I'm going to talk about some stuff with this pack and show you some of the stuff that's going on. So maybe you've never owned a backpack before, or a backpack of this size. I certainly did not start out with this one. In my mind, this was a little bit more of an expensive backpack, and one that was going to be a little bit more of an investment. But I knew I wanted a backpacking style backpack because of comfort features, and also their ability to carry a lot of stuff. But there are some things that we have to weigh here. So when I'm talking about these big backpacking backpacks and my channel overall, I think of things in a little bit of context of like preparedness, or carrying infantryman-like equipment for the average citizen, maybe someone who's never been in the military before or in the infantry or anything like that. So I want to carry a lot of sustainment equipment. That is obviously what all of this stuff is for, but I'm also going to be thinking this in context of integrating this into a role for something like a modern Minuteman or a modern civilian infantryman. So just understand if I'm throwing out some like weird language that you might not really understand. Maybe it's not why you're here at the channel. Check out the rest of my content. That's what we'll be talking about. So there's a couple reasons that I wanted to go over to something like a civilian style backpack from a military style backpack. And one of the biggest things was being comfort. So I have experience with a MOLLE 2 rucksack, which I'll kind of be comparing this one to. But this is one that I've dyed green. It was the UCP camouflage pattern. And as you can see, this one is pretty, well, just not very comfortable. The waist belt, the features, and the padding, and just all this stuff is pretty cheap, very durable. These backpacks can also carry a lot of weight, a lot of equipment. I want to say that this is about an 80 liter plus backpack, but as you can see, when I bought the thing, I had to stitch up the shoulder straps and make a lot of modifications to it, or at least some modifications to it to serve my purpose a little bit better. You also need to buy some accessories for these things to really be usable. But comparing that, this backpack, very comfortable. This padding, very squishy, soft padded. The waist belt makes a huge difference. This is all one piece that is connected to a much lighter outer frame. That's a little bit more customized, you know, for this backpack and for the purpose of this backpack. But besides comfort, I also wanted to look at durability. So one of the downsides to buying a lot of civilian style backpacks is that they're usually not made out of the most durable material, and that is usually to cut down on weight. A lot of backpacks, whether they're made from Osprey or Patagonia, they're usually made out of thinner material that can tear more easily and may require you to do some patchwork. Now, I kind of want a backpack that's able to take a bomb, at least in my mind. But kind of like a doomsday backpack. I don't really want to have to worry about, you know, saving weight for, you know, me having to sew this thing up or patch it up. I don't really want that. So I know I had to sew that backpack up, and I'm sure it saw a lot of torture before it got in the hands of little old me, who's not going to be using it every day. But the reason that I go for Mystery Ranch as a brand, looking at civilian style backpacks, is because Mystery Ranch actually caters more towards like military products. I'm sure you've seen this before, whether that be other smaller backpacks, big duffel bags. And the good thing is about this is that they make their equipment a little bit more durable. This is by far like the most like solidly stitched and like thickest material backpack that I have seen as far as civilian style backpacks go. This thing does not look very militaristic. The fact that this is like a foliage green that blends in with my environment and also blends in with my environment with me not having to carry around like a big military style backpack because I want to LARP. This blends in well. No one questions me having a Mystery Ranch backpack. It looks a little bit more chill and less spicy. So those are just a few of the reasons that I went with Mystery Ranch. I also liked the size of this backpack and some of the features, one of them being the detachable head and also the tri-zip design. This is the first tri-zip backpack I ever had, and I really wanted to try it out, and I really do like it. You can really pack like your sleep system and start zipping this thing up and building all the way up to the top. And also whenever you lay it down, like I'm about to show, and you unzip the whole thing, it's just really easy to get things in and out of the backpack. But besides, like instead of me opening up the top, like with this MOLLE 2 ruck, me opening up the top and having to dig stuff out inside, I can kind of dissect the backpack, split it open, and get what I need out. And it's just a little bit more simple, a little bit more user-friendly. So let's talk about some of the features of the backpack, just of what you see. And there's a couple things that I looked for, and one of the biggest ones was I wanted to have these big, stretchy pockets that are kind of like this elastic material on the side. Now, I was a little afraid because I knew the items that I was going to be carrying, and I was like, I'm scared this stuff is going to be too thin and I might end up tearing it. For example, there is a metal canteen cookware set in this one right here. Now, I mainly carry canteens on the sides of these backpacks to carry my water and to get it out fast, and also to exchange my canteens for the one that's, let's say, in my chest rig. Although you don't necessarily have to do that. I will show as an example, I have a 1 quart on this side, and I also have a 2 quart on this side. So you can carry a 2 quart canteen on both sides, and it is big enough to fit that. It's also big enough to fit the cookware set. It stretches enough, and I will have to say this material is way thicker and more durable than I originally thought that it was going to be. So I have a 1 quart Nalgene, and you can pick these up from any surplus store. They are canteen cookware sets that you know, get your thing out, set it over a fire, and you can boil some water. There's a lid stuffed down in here, and you can make food that way, or boil sterilized water, you know, however you see fit. Gonna set that to the side. I'm sure that sounded amazing for all of you. So the side pockets were something that really interested me, along with the tri-zip design. So technically this backpack is more than, what is this? I believe 50 liters. I think it's technically an 80-liter backpack, and that is because this frame back here actually expands. And I haven't really had a need for this yet, or a use for this, but pretty much what this can do is whenever I start unbuckling the sides and the back here, this frame will actually expand out, and these, yeah, as you can see, the whole thing comes apart, and I can actually stuff stuff in between my pack and the frame. I've tried this out. You can fit one AR-10 stuffed back here. I don't know if that's necessarily ideal, but if you were going to carry a rifle, it's closer to your body, and so the weight's not going to be pushed out that way so much. So that is one cool use case for the backpack design. But like I said, I haven't had too much of a reason to use it yet, but I do think it is a very cool design, a very cool feature, and I like having it. I like the fact that I can carry stuff, all sorts of weird items in there. However, that being said, whenever you do that, all of the weight in your backpack is going to be pushed away from your body, which is going to make it a little bit more awkward to carry. But that being said, this backpack has fantastic balance. Wow, this buckle is being awful to me. There we go. This backpack has fantastic balance. It is by far the most comfortable backpack I've ever used, but like I said, my use case is fairly limited. So there's a lot of straps going on here in the front of this, and the proper way, I didn't do this for a while, but the proper way to have this thing is to cross these two straps and to buckle them up here at the top. This actually pulls the pack into the frame at the top, as you can see, kind of when it starts falling away from the frame. We've also got, look at that canteen just rolling over. We also have a buckle here over the water bottle, two buckles here, and two buckles on this side. So pretty much buckles for the sides, buckle for the front. Now, I didn't talk about this, but as you can see with the side, I went ahead and stuffed an axe back here. Is just kind of like something that you can do, and then all you have to do is unbuckle it, and I can get my handy bushcrafting axe out. This is a council axe. They're made here in North Carolina, and it's about an 18-inch handle, I believe, or a 19-inch handle. Served me well though. I enjoy it, don't have to carry around all the time. But as much as this is going to be a backpack review, everybody, I'm going to show you some of the items that I carry, and I'm not going to go into everything in a lot of detail, but I will recommend another YouTube channel that does show a lot of really cool stuff you can pack in a backpack, and that is going to be Grunt Perspective. If you've never seen that YouTube channel, go ahead and check him out. It's a lot more military based, but he has a lot of, I've taken a lot of inspiration from him and some of the smaller bags, items that I carry in here to keep things organized. So before we open up the main body, we're going to open up the head, or talk about the head of the backpack. So there are two zippers, and this bottom one is much bigger than the top one. But here on the top, I'll carry small items that I might want to get out at a pinch, such as extra hand warmers, food, water purification, and iodine tablets, more food, electrolyte, sugary things to keep my morale up, also caffeinated packets so I don't have to make coffee in the morning, because like I said, this is more of a camping backpack more than anything right now. Going down to this bottom zipper, the first thing that I pull out is a USGI woodland poncho. So you can use this for all sorts of things, block water off of yourself and your backpack, or you can even set up a small shelter with it and keep yourself out of the rain. So I like to have this up here at a pinch, and it's just kind of separated from the main compartment, so I don't have to unbuckle anything to get it out. I can just unzip, get it out, and move on. Ooh, this is a bonus item that was in here from my day yesterday. Ignore it. I have some paracord daisy chain, and yes, this is bright orange. I also have some other more earthy colors that I carry around, along with the tourniquet in here. Just an extra tourniquet, nothing special. Here's my water filter kit. I have a water filter for this in the backpack, actually. One thing I forgot to mention, on the waist belt, there's actually MOLLE webbing. So you can actually put some pretty cool stuff on the outside, on both sides here. I have a carabiner for some gloves, but I actually have a Safariland QLS that I can put right here, well, on my right side, on the other side. So I have a Safariland QLS that I can actually put a a holster on, and so I can carry my holster without a belt, or if I have no chest rig, on the backpack, and it's really easy to get on and off, and that is a huge plus to me for this. It's very comfortable to get to. Also on the bottom here, you can just kind of check out the straps. I have strapped tents to the bottom of this, so you can undo these straps, make them come out real big, and I have put a tent right down here and strapped it down, and that has worked good for me, although it's kind of heavy and stuff. So, okay, now that I know that you can see everything well, let's start undoing the main compartment of the backpack. So first of all, kind of a cool life hack. These are some tiny little red lights from a company called Night something Eyes, I-Z-E, Night Eyes. You can get these on Amazon though. They're a little pricey. I want to say they're about 10 bucks, and I order like a bunch of them for my backpacks, and I put them on the zipper so that if I'm ever in here at night, and let's say worst case scenario, I don't even have a headlamp, or I want someone else to be able to get into my backpack and see around, this is just kind of nice to have as a pointer, and it's obviously much brighter in the dark, and you can just find stuff really easily with it. It's just a cool thing to have. Maybe get one and switch it around to all your backpacks. But moving on. So actually, I'm just gonna do a full cross section so you can kind of see what's going on. You see how it's like dissecting an animal? Pretty cool. So in the very top, what do we have? So we're gonna have our lighter items in the top, things that I'm going to want to access more quickly, more easily. And then moving down, we're going to have like food or clothes, or items kind of amongst that category, kind of our medium to lighter items. And then kind of like my bulky, weird / heavier items, I'm towards the bottom. My sleeping system, and yeah, primarily all my sleeping system items. It's also at the bottom because it's the thing that I'm going to probably get to last on a mission or a camp. So at the top, I have a personalized medical kit, a boo-boo kit. So in here, I have a variety of items: medicine for myself, gloves, tape, band-aids, and so on. I have another video on personalized medical kits, boo-boo kits. You should check it out, and you'll get the idea of the contents of this bag. This bag doesn't really matter. It's a T-Rex Arms medical kit. I took it off my belt because I didn't really like it, and I used it for this because it'll carry my EpiPens, because I need epinephrine sometimes. And right here, I actually sewed a thread so that the zipper won't come down past a certain spot, so it actually just kind of opens up like a little wallet or whatever. It doesn't come all the way out. I found that very annoying while it was attached to my belt, and so that's why I have the zipper sewn. But if you do that, your zipper will change, and that's, you find that cool, it's cool, whatever. I have a glow-in-the-dark patch on here so that people can find this a little bit easier in the backpack. Setting that to the side, here's an item that has been inspired by Grunt Perspective, and this is just a fanny pack that I had laying around. You can really use anything. I believe in his videos he has like a Spirited Systems fanny pack, but this is kind of like a survival bag. I use and keep my fire starting equipment in here, my cooking equipment in here, so like a roll of aluminum foil that I have, or a flat of aluminum foil in here, just in case I ever needed to cook meat. There's actually a lot of aluminum foil just in this little bag. Have a lighter with some duct tape around it, which is a cool hack to get some duct tape with your lighter. Kind of a multi-use item there. And in here, I probably have a little bit too much bulk, but I have items to include a headlamp, extra food in case I need to grab this and go in a pinch, fire starting equipment, 2 emergency space blankets, foot powder, some 2 chem lights for signaling, and a life straw for contingency water filtration. Like I said, if I need to grab this bag and go in a pinch, I could kind of sort of survive for a little bit. So that's kind of the idea behind this. Fanny packs are super cool if you can get them kind of small. It wouldn't be a bad idea to put like a bungee tie around this and kind of compress it a little bit. I think that's something that I might do in the future. But fanny packs are great to kind of stuff in here with things, because you can throw them on or hand them to people and they can just kind of strap them on, and then you can still use your hands. And if the ground's wet, you don't have to dunk this in the mud. Another vital kit, and yes, this is misleading, but this is a waterproof bag and I wanted to reuse it. This is not a first aid kit. This is kind of like my hygiene kit where I have my toilet paper, baby wipes that are wet. I have my toothbrush, and actually some nose spray in here, just in case allergies get bad. Some stuff to clean my hands, some mosquito bite itching ointment, and this is a poop shovel. It's called The Deuce, made by Tent Labs. You can get these off of Amazon. You can dig a tiny hole to poop in. I have tissues as well. So this is kind of my poop bag, and also my brushing teeth bag. So by the way, you never want the poop to touch the shovel. So all this stuff should stay fairly clean. And I have it all plastic bag contained for waterproofing and also sanitary purposes. So in here I have a Sea to Summit. So this is a smaller 8-liter bag, and I have this compressed pretty small down, and I will keep clothes and stuff that I don't want to get wet in here. It's just a larger waterproof bag. I've actually had holes in this bag before, so I've had to duct tape it. Kind of a short review of that. But I've got 2 socks, 2 pairs of wool socks in here, and a toboggan. So kind of a rule of thumb is you want to have like a pair of wool socks per day you're going to be out in the field. You know, depending on weather, you might want to scale that up. And yeah, that's just kind of what's going on here. You can carry all sorts of other stuff in here, scarves, bandanas, whatever. But I will have to say, kind of a problem with this backpack, and this is something that you just kind of have to figure out for yourself. Get off me, bug. Is that this backpack does not really have any extra room for carrying additional layers in. This thing's pretty stuffed full. And I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end and kind of why I might not really consider this a like combat ready backpack or whatever that's supposed to mean. But I do feel like that this backpack is a little small. Carrying additional layers, or for example, if I wanted to carry like an entrenchment tool in here or sandbags or some extra gear, there's really not any room for it. And I personally don't think that I'm carrying anything too ridiculous in here. I do have one bonus item that I'm going to kind of talk about now, which is a bivy. So this is a United States Marine Corps bivy bag, and I don't have a stuff sack for it yet. I think I'm going to get one because this kind of takes up a lot of room, but this will keep your sleeping bag dry in case the conditions are wet. So it's kind of like a condom for your sleeping bag. Pretty rad, because in a pinch, if you didn't have anything else, you could kind of just use this with a sleeping bag and stay dry and sleep on the ground. Like I said, wouldn't it be the most comfortable thing in the world? Might get kind of cold, but a bivy sack is super good to have. You don't have to have a United States Marine Corps one. I do, because right here it has a mesh bug net screen where I can actually look out of the bivy while I'm laying in it, and I don't have to worry about bugs or garbage getting inside the sack. I'm still kind of enclosed to it. So get a good one with the mesh still intact on it, but this is kind of like a high ticket item. I think these are around $250, which might be one of the most expensive things I have in this backpack besides the backpack itself. All right, this is a little bit of a bonus item. I don't really use this because, as I'll get into, I don't sleep on the ground, but this is a cool little ground mat from Big Agnes, and I don't know what it's called or anything, but check them out. You might be able to find it. This is like just a very small, like lightweight ground mat tarp. So it's always good to have something to sit on, even if you're not sleeping on the ground. Or maybe it's for somebody else, or for some reason I couldn't think of, but I just threw it in here to show it's kind of small. It doesn't take up too much room, and I actually really do like this product. It's got tie-offs on all 4 ends, and comparing this to something like the United States Marine Corps like tarps you can get, or the Army tarps that are in MARPAT or UCP, those things are freaking heavy. They will weigh this thing down, take up a ton of space. I have one. I honestly don't use it unless I like absolutely have to. That being said, they're pretty heavy duty. I bet this would tear a lot sooner than one of those Marine Corps ones or those Army tarps, but this is a lot better than surplus. I think this thing was like $100. So Now we're gonna move into the grub section. So I have some space for some food. This is a like traditional hiking bag food, English. This is like your traditional hiking food. You put some boiling hot water in here and warm up a good meal. So this is some grub. This is a good flavor, whatever. Take a screenshot of this, get some if you want. Also have a pack of ramen in here. Kind of the same concept. You warm up some water, you kind of have some hot grub, tastes good, all that stuff. So this is what the canteen cookware set's for if I don't have gas. But wait, I have some contingency for cooking food. And lastly, I have a homemade MRE. So personally, if you're into this stuff, you kind of like military LARPing, whatever it is, I wouldn't recommend buying military MREs at all whatsoever. Go out and make your own. Get a pack of rice, get a Cliff Bar, some tuna, and a pack of oatmeal and some chocolates, and wrap it all up in a plastic bag. This is pretty much the same size or smaller than those military MREs that you're gonna get. It's probably lighter too, and it has food that I actually like in here. I'm gonna make a video of this in the future, but kind of a teaser for it. Those things stack up very well though, and like I said, they're usually not as heavy as the military ones, at least, you know, in my opinion. So, my contingency for cooking is actually a gas stove set. So this is a butane gas, canister. They make smaller ones. They make ones that are about half the size that you could probably use for a couple days out in the field. This one's a little bit bigger. I am just showing that I can carry a bigger one, and I have enough room for it. I usually stack this stuff on top of each other like this. And yeah, you can kind of look up this one. It's from GSI Outdoors, but I have a spoon, like 2 bowls stuffed in here, the large pot for boiling water, and this kind of goes hand in hand with food such as this, or if you're trying to boil some water really fast for some ramen. And for, you know, a military style kind of trying to stay low off the radar, not cooking at all is great, and being able to put all your food in here after you've eaten it and not litter and throw trash everywhere and not create any smoke or heat is probably ideal. But if you want to balance between, you know, some good meals that are, you know, will like warm you up and stuff, maybe you're doing some stuff in the wintertime, gas, you know, butane's kind of the way to go. And in my experience, this is a pretty good set, a pretty good kit. There might be some smaller ones out there, but I've used this one and it fits in here good with everything else going on. And while we're on the topic of food, I wanted to add, you kind of need an Nalgene. Nalgenes can hold boiling hot water. USGI canteens will melt if you try to put boiling hot water in them. You will ruin them in your water. So like this plastic 2-quart canteen is no good for boiling hot water. But if for whatever reason you wanted to boil your water and put it in a canteen, maybe you want to stuff it in your sleeping bag to warm yourself up in a cold night, you need a Nalgene branded water bottle or a similar one that will hold boiling hot water. But these are some Nalgene canteens, and I have one for that exact purpose. All right. So last thing, food and water related. In here, I have a Camelback that is outfitted with a Sawyer water filter, so I can put dirty water in here. I've actually fit a source bladder on top of this one and filled the source bladder up with clean water and used this as like a contingency water filtration water bag. So I can drink straight from this and it will be filtering the water. I never want to mix my clean water with my dirty water. You know, I guess it wouldn't really matter if I was putting clean water in here and filtering it, but I just don't want to be using my filter if I don't have to. So you can carry 2 Camelbacks in here. And I'll show the Camelback system. It's pretty good for what it is once I get everything else out. So moving on to the sleep system. My sleep system contains of hammock. I hammock camp. So I've always had an Eno pretty much. And whenever I was getting into all this stuff, I was kind of like, I would really like to figure out just how to use my hammock instead of having to buy a tent. And as I was talking to some people about it, they were like, oh yeah, that's kind of ultralight. That is actually a very lightweight way to camp. And so I said, cool, you know, the more light I can go, the better. But I will show you all of my sleeping equipment that I use to support myself. And if you're not someone who's familiar with hammock camping, look up some videos. It's pretty cool. If you don't live somewhere like out here in the east where there are lots of trees to choose from, this might not be a viable option for you. You still may have to go with a lightweight tarp or tent shelter setup. But I love the hammock for a few reasons. It keeps you off of the ground, which is awesome. You can honestly sleep in some pretty wacky positions, like on the sides of hills where you couldn't set up a tent or a tarp on the ground and sleep that way. So, you know, if you're trying to hide from someone, they might not think that you are sleeping on the side of a freaking hill. Or you can even put this thing kind of out of sight where someone might not actually be looking in some weird configuration. But yeah, if it's raining a lot, which it does out here in the tropical Appalachian Mountains, it keeps you off of the ground. And that's kind of what the bivy sack is also for, because water will kind of creep up an Eno if it rains enough. And even if you have a tarp over your Eno, it can kind of creep in. But if you have the bivy sack and your sleeping bags in that, you're a-okay and you're covered. And you're still off of the wet, muddy ground. So I have my Eno straps, and I have a double-sized Eno in here. If you had a single Eno, I'm sure it would be a little smaller, but this is kind of what I've always had, and I didn't want to change it. Yep, it's kind of sort of camouflage, cool, but yeah, Eno, we all know them. And if you didn't know, Eno also makes their own dry fly rain cover, and this is a pretty cool tarp. You can look it up online, kind of how you set it up. It's super simple. You just set it up over the same two trees you set your Eno over, and it has 5 tie-down straps, 3 on one side, 2 on the other, that you stake into the ground, and then boom, you have a really solid waterproof cover. But like I said, I have camped in the rain so many times. I've used this thing to where it has failed, and actually water has creeped up my Eno straps because it was raining so much and started to get my Eno wet. That's where the bivy bag comes in. And lastly, because we're camping in the air, we have a little bit of a greater problem with keeping insulated and keeping warm at night. For that reason, I have a 20-degree bag by Nebo. This is a 20-degree sleeping bag. 20 degree is like the range, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is a Nebo sleeping bag. It's very comfortable. I'm definitely not getting it out of the stuff sack for you guys, but you can see right there is the name and the temperature rating and all that stuff. But I have a colder sleeping bag to accommodate colder temperatures or colder wind chill from being suspended in the air in case my tarp is not blocking the wind already. So this is what I use. There are a lot of other options of sleeping bags out there. Get one that you like. This one's a little bit pricier. It's probably the same amount as the bivy bag. You know, you could also get a surplus sleeping bag and try that out. And if you just plan on camping in the summertime, or if you just want to like try camping, you can definitely get a cheaper sleeping bag without paying this money for it. But I sometimes do camp in colder conditions, and like I said, I'm suspended in the air and I wanted the extra insulation, so I do have a colder weather bag, which is kind of what I would recommend. In warmer weather, if you get too hot, you just unzip the thing and kind of open yourself up, let your body air out. Okay, the very last item is another product by Nebo, and this is just a pillow. This is just a pillow that you can fill up with air and then fold up into its own stuff sack and stuff back here in your backpack. So this is kind of a comfort item. It's a luxury item. I still fit it in here. It makes sleeping a lot more comfortable, right? If I needed to put something else in here and prioritize other things, I'd probably ditch this. But this is really awesome to sleep with whenever you're sleeping like a banana. So this is what the inside of the backpack looks like. I wanted to show right here. This is a really cool feature they actually did add, which I love. And this kind of works with, about any bladder, but it is kind of like a hanger for your bladder. So you can get the rope and just kind of hang it around here. Or if you have a source bladder, you can kind of do some sort of a tie around this thing and cinch this. You kind of wrap it around and tie off all sorts of different types of camelbacks in here so that they stay upright and they don't fall all the way down your backpack. So last thing I have for you guys, kind of a bonus item. If you're into this and for some reason you think that this backpack might be what you want to carry a Man Pack portable radio in, I will show And this is not very optimized for size or for weight. This is actually going to extremely limit the amount of stuff you're able to carry inside of here. You could actually slip, and you're gonna have to give me a second, you could actually slip this radio in there. And like I said, it's not super ideal. I still have to kind of get in here to kind of check out what's going on, but I still can have my push-to-talk routed outside of the backpack and use it. And yeah, you can kind of do that. I'm actually kind of curious to see if I could get some comfortable setup with this. And yeah, I don't have this thing cinched down perfectly. This is an Armor Lock man pack for the TYT 9800. This is a quad band radio. But I would be interested to see if there was some comfortable way to carry this thing kind of back here in the frame between, you know, the pack and everything, and have your antenna sticking up outside while you're on the go. So maybe I'll have some content on that in the future, because I am still testing out this radio as I kind of just acquired it. So everybody, I absolutely destroyed my perfectly packed out Mystery Ranch backpack. But I really hope that you learned something and you maybe liked the product. I personally don't really care, but I kind of teased this video before in the past and just really wanted to get it out to you guys. So I do hope you enjoyed. Comment what you like and what you want to see more of. Comment your favorite backpack, but please like, share this video if you enjoyed it. Get out there, test your own gear. Summertime's coming up. Get out in the woods, be an animal, and act like one too. Take care. See you guys.